Fabulous. Thank you all so much for joining us for our annual IHSCM Greener Care Conference. I am Jade Maloney, Operations Manager here at the Institute. Today's event would not have been possible without the fabulous Elaine Mead, who joins me on the screen. Elaine is the Executive Director of Improvement for Care and Compassion. She's Chair of the IHSCM Greener Care Special Interest Group, and she's also a Fellow of the Institute as well. She's done a tremendous job of bringing our speakers today, and we hope you enjoy the event as this box set. There'll be contact details shared for you to reach out to the speakers if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you at Greener Care Special Interest Group meeting soon. Elaine, over to you. Thank you.
Jade, thank you so much, and hello and welcome to the Institute for Health and Social Care Managers Greener Care Conference. So we recognise just how busy you all are, but it's clear to us that there's still a huge amount of enthusiasm for making care greener. So we've taken the decision today to record our fantastic speakers so that you can watch all their presentations in your own time. So wherever you are, and whether you're live with us or whatever time you're managing to catch up with this box set, welcome and thank you for being with us on this really vital journey. The Greener Care Special Interest Group is a friendly group of members and other interested parties who come together at least 4 times a year to learn and share ideas and experience about the climate emergency. We hear, as you will today, from inspiring speakers. We talk to people who are trying out new things, and we shamelessly steal each other's ideas. So we'd love you to join us, and we'll make sure that the links to the group and the resources that we collect are available to us. So there cannot be a more important time to engage around climate change. And as trusted health and care professionals, please do not underestimate the impact that you can have. The 2024 report of the Lancet Countdown, published just last month, does not make for good reading, with a description of record-breaking extreme weather events registered worldwide in 2023, with extreme heat waves, wildfires, storms, floods and droughts affecting people and the systems and economies on which their health depends. Of course, we've seen again this year, and our thoughts are with our friends from Valencia in Spain after the recent floods. But I know that you're here because you're keen to do something. The Lancet is clear that putting people's health at the centre of climate change policymaking is key to ensuring the shift of resources away from the fossil fuel-based economy towards zero emissions. And anything we can do to raise this important issue protects well-being, reduces health inequities and maximises health gains. So we all need to learn more, and we all want to do something. So we have friends here today who've dedicated their professional and no doubt a lot of their personal lives to doing something. So I'm grateful to Manon, Nuala and Lorna who've agreed to take some time to come and share with us their experiences of making a difference. I know that you'll be inspired to take some action, and do remember that every little thing we do makes a difference. So here to speak with us first today is Manon Jourdan, who's the Implementation Officer for the ERIC project with the NGO Zero Waste Europe. And I think linking in from Marseille today, Manon, yeah? So welcome. I'm going to pass over to you, and please share your screen if you would.
Perfect, I will. So let me just share my screen.
Perfect, we're in your hands, Manon. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much for the invitation. Very glad to be here today. Maybe a short disclaimer before to get started. I am not a health worker. I'm not working in the health service, in the health sector, but I will try to bring some elements in my presentation that relate a bit to your work. But on the other hand, I also hope to expand a bit the scope of your work and perspectives, bring you new perspective on many aspects of maybe your life as a citizen, but also the worker. So Elaine, you already presented, but my name is Manon. I'm working for the NGO, which you may know, Zero Waste Europe. So we are based in Brussels. And I am working as an implementation officer. In a few minutes, you will know what exactly that means. But very briefly, our NGOs is a network of different members. As you can see here, we are a lot of women involved in across Europe in this organization. But basically, we are composed by 37 member organizations, which are association, non-profit association across Europe, so based in 29 countries. Those associations are themselves working on waste issues, resources preservation, and climate topics. So together, we are creating Zero Waste Europe, which centralizes the work of all these organizations and develop together with them different type of projects, both at the EU level, but also at the local level. So this is really how we are trying to catalyze change. This is our vision of change. So what we're trying to do is to implement together with our members zero waste solutions on the ground by mobilizing cities, businesses, private investors, companies who all want to create the change we want to see in society. But we cannot do this without creating the right conditions, the right political condition, right? So that's also why at the EU level, our policy team is advocating, trying to influence policies, funding, narratives. So they're working on key legislative topic to really try to create the right condition for the change to happen then at the national, regional, and local levels. But those two pillars cannot exist without movement building. So this is when the third pillars come in. So what we're trying to do is really to work on movement and power building by organizing and mobilizing groups inside and outside our organization and immediate network. So those three pillars together really like are coexisting, and this is how we're really trying to bring society towards a zero-waste transition. Briefly, currently so part of our implementation work, as I was saying, is to work with cities. Why cities? One of you may know, but when it comes to the waste problem, municipalities have the competence to resolve part of the issue, because it's at the local level that waste is produced, at least by households, and it's at the local level that cities can implement proper waste management strategies, not only to manage their waste better by separating it better to be sent to recycling, but also by reducing it before it's even produced. So by implementing waste prevention policies together with their citizens. So that's why a big part of our implementation work and a big part of my work is to support members and municipalities from our network to implement proper zero waste policies. So at the very core of our work, we have what we call the certified and candidate zero waste cities. So very recently, we have developed, it was actually during COVID, a certification, which you can see the logo of the certification here on the screen, the Zero Waste City certification, which is powered by sister organization called MISA, Mission Zero Waste Academy. And so through this certification, we really try to engage with committed cities and try to combat greenwashing, because we are invaded in Europe and in the world by greenwashing certification, which basically would say this city is zero waste just because this city is organizing beach cleaning, which is absolutely not what we're trying to do. We're really trying to organize a shift from waste management to resource management. So our certification, and which is at the core of our work, really try to work with ambitious cities and help them implementing proper policies. Outside, so we have that. But then we also work with cities who want to work on specific actions, specific projects. And this is what we do with two projects of ours, which is the Reuse Vanguard project and the Elevating Reuse in Cities. Both those projects really try to implement what we call city-wide reusable system for packaging. So really try to support the cities to develop reuse and waste prevention, specifically single-use packaging waste prevention at the local level. And finally, we're also working with an extended group of cities who are engaged more or less into waste policies, who are still not certified, but still want to hear more about them. With all of this work, we managed to cover over 60 million people in Europe, covered by all these categories, and we engage with more or less 400 municipalities across the EU. So yeah, it's an ongoing work, and the vision we have for 2030 is to actually expand our support to at least 50 municipalities and to really focus more on, because we truly believe that this is the step forward. This is where we should go. Stop talking about recycling and move toward better waste prevention and better reuse models. So the idea is really to make that the new norm in the EU, and to, on the policy side of things, try to encourage the EU to shift its narrative from waste management to resources preservation policies. This introduction has been done. Now I would like, together with you, to maybe debunk some common myth that we all may have in our lives. I have a few questions for you. I don't know if you can feel free to answer them, or I can answer them myself. I don't know how we want to proceed here, but the first one is the following. What type of product is the most significant source of exposure to endocrine disruptors such as BPA? So I don't know if any of you has an idea and want to take the floor. We can take 1 minute for this. If not, I can provide the answer. I don't know. I cannot see if you can speak. You want to speak or not? So,
plastic bottles.
Well, that's an answer. Yeah, could be. Does anyone else have an idea?
Food packaging, Manon.
Food packaging. Yes, that's exactly right. So here's the answer. So yeah, growing evidence show that many single-use food contact articles, which could also be called food packaging material, made of plastics, but not only, made of paper and cardboard, considering that most of the time paper packaging also contains some plastic, because paper is not permeable, so it needs to be, and only plastic can ensure that functionality. So yeah, growing evidence show that single-use food contact articles are the which pose the most risk to consumer, because they contain hundreds of harmful or potentially harmful chemicals. What we mean by potentially harmful is basically the harmfulness has not been proven yet, but it's suspected to be. And they are complex and dangerous because those chemicals migrate to the food and end up in the consumer's body. And this is particularly true when we consume greasy food, because greasiness make this migration potential even higher, or when we are basically warming up a dish which is together with this food packaging in the microwave, for example. So additionally, this risk of chemical migration is even increasing from recycled plastic, paper, and cardboard, because sometimes we recycle this material to create other type of food packaging. And we are currently underestimating the risk arising from this recycled material. So all of this is kind of one example that proves that increased recycling of single-use packaging currently is not a viable solution, to Europe, to the global waste crisis, but also when it comes to health, the preservation of the health of people. How many units of single-use cups for takeaway warm or cold drinks were used in the EU in 2019? 7 million, 17 million, or 17 billion? Any guess?
Got a comment in the chat box for 17 billion.
That's totally right. And we are talking only about single-use cups, yeah? So when you add up on top single-use takeaway packaging, this is obviously even more. And I would like to add on top of this data the fact that just between 2010 and 2021, so in less than a bit more than 10 years, in the EU, total packaging waste increased by 24%. And if we look at global, we think that by 2050, there will be an increase of 50% of the global use of plastics. So this really shows that even though we recycle more, this is not enough, because we simply produce more and more plastic, and not only plastic, but single-use packaging in general, which is the key problem. The fact that we create material to be used only once. So no matter if they are made of paper or plastic, the fact that we are consuming resources to use something only once and then throwing it away, it's a problem in a growing market where we produce and consume more and more. And then my final question for you, which gives you another perspective on the problem, is the following. So every year, of the 30 million tons of plastic waste we produce, only 9 million tons are sent to recycling, okay? But how much of this 9 million sent to recycling are actually recycled? So 90%, 70%, or 45%?
Chat box is saying 45%.
This is absolutely right. So we are producing 30 million tons of plastic waste. Out of this 30 million, we are sending 9 million to recycling, but we are able to recycle only 45%. So a very tiny fraction of the whole plastic that we're actually like consuming, yeah? So this can be explained by many things. The fact that first, cities and member states are not able to separate properly their waste, so citizens end up to mix a lot of stuff in their waste. So what's being sent to the recycling central is too polluted. There's a high level of contamination in it, which prevents all this plastic to be recycled. So contamination is one part of the problem, but not the main problem. The main problem is that currently we have about 79 types of plastic material types available in the market, and only a handful of them can be recycled based on the current technology that we have. So this can also explain that we are not recycling a lot, basically because we do not have the capacity, neither the technology to do this. All right, so this was just like okay, so this is the answer. This was just like a small introduction also to help you understand this, yeah, where are we at, what's the real issue, and why we are currently focusing at Zero Waste Europe on the promotion of reuse policies and waste prevention. So implementing policy that allows us to prevent waste even before it's produced. Yeah, so by keeping material the longest possible in the economy, right? I just wanted to have to give you a very short brief on the current legislation, which has been adopted last year in Europe, which is called the Plastic Packaging Waste Regulation. I don't know if you heard about this. I know you are based in the UK, and sadly UK is not in Europe anymore, but I'm quite sure that this regulation might have an impact also on UK, and can be maybe source of inspiration as well for your internal policy. So for the first time, Europe has adopted a legislation that puts forward prevention and reuse measures. Yeah. So last year we had finally a regulation that puts the prevention of waste generation, the promotion of reuse and refill, and the reduction of excessive and unnecessary packaging at its core. We have, the EU has adopted a few bans. I mean, some of the bans that are interesting, for example, is that by 2030, it will be forbidden if you consume foods in any restaurants or bars to be served in single-use plastic packaging. Also, this can also apply to paper packaging, single-use paper packaging, because as I say, they contain most of the time plastic as well. There's a certain threshold above which it's considered as single-use plastic still, even if it's made of paper. Another interesting ban is the single serving sachet for sugar, cream, ketchup, that it's at the bottom right of my screen. We all have seen that, and this as well should be forbidden. I'm saying should because, as you know, the devil hides always in the details, and there are a lot of exceptions that can be applied, but normally these things should be also banned, as well as these miniature hotel toiletries that you can see as well on my screen. We have finally a waste reduction targets in Europe, which means that by 2030 we should have waste reduction by of 5%, that will go then to 10 and then 15% by 2040 at a national level. So this is really to encourage member states to implement reuse policies and waste prevention, and to really be a bit more proactive on this. And to support this waste prevention target, we have finally reused or legally binding reuse targets for certain sectors, such as transport packaging, grouped packaging, but also beverage packaging, with a few exceptions again for milk and dairy, etc. But I will share my screens, my slides with you after, so you can go through them in more details. I will not overwhelm you right now with information, but it's good to know that we finally have a few reuse targets for key sectors. Unfortunately, because the paper lobby was so huge during the adoption of this law, we did not manage to have reuse and refill obligation for the HoReCa sector. We only have, by obligation, I mean targets, sorry. We did not manage to have legally binding targets for the HoReCa sector, which is, as you know, one of the biggest producer of consumer and producer of single-use packaging waste. What we have is the endeavor, like encouragement to achieve a 10% reuse system by 2030. But this is not legally binding. It's like an incitation, right? What we have, though, which is very interesting, and it's good for you to know as well if you come to Europe, to the EU, and you travel in the EU country, is that by 2027, the HoReCa businesses must accept refill from consumers bringing their own containers. So if you go with your own reusable cups to grab a coffee and they tell you that they don't accept it, you know that this is legally binding. They have to accept it, and this is law by 2027. So they have a few years ahead to adapt, but you could still put that argument forward. Another interesting obligation is that HoReCa businesses must implement reuse systems for packaging by 2028. So they do not have targets, but they should at least offer an option to their clients, to have some kind of reusable system for packaging, to at least give the consumers an option between being served in a single-use packaging or in a reusable one. So this is also to promote the marketability of reusable options and alternatives in the EU, which is good, a first step. The member state can still do more. They can set higher reuse target, but also new ones, especially for the packaging types such as takeaway. They can also implement new ban, or at least make sure that the bans that we are having are properly implemented, because this is often a problem. We have bans, but then we are still invaded by single-use product that should be banned. So this is also one action that can be taken by member states. But when it comes to cities, they can also do more to make sure that we create a more level playing field for reusable packaging, because as it is currently, single-use plastic, packaging is still the cheapest option, not only for consumers, but also for businesses, right? So we need to create some kind of fiscal incentives, fiscal measure at the local level that helps not only cities, but also member state and ultimately the EU and then businesses to go for reusable, because it's just the cheapest way, the cheapest option. So fiscal measures such as taxes and levies. We have example of cities like in Germany, the city of Tübingen, which puts a tax on single-use plastic and then used the amounts collected to invest in reusable alternatives and provide, especially to the HoReCa businesses, some kind of support for them to implement reusable systems. So this kind of systems are really good and should be encouraged. And yes, I don't think I have much more time, so I will just give you a bunch of concrete example of what cities in Europe have been doing. So tour of Europe, what's happening next door. I took two examples that I hope will be inspiring. So let's go first to Estonia, specifically to Tallinn, the capital, which has adopted last year a new law which basically banned any single-use packaging from its public event. So basically, food, drink, at public event is permitted to be sold only in reusable packaging. And they've been applying this since last year and organized already many sporting events, but also concerts, sometimes attracting more than 130,000 people, using only reusable. So that's great. And obviously the logistics behind is sometimes a hassle, but they're very, very happy with the result, and they managed to drop considerably the amount of waste that were produced and managed, which is also costs. So some cost saving were also in here. Another example that I would like to spend a bit more time on is in a city called Viladecans, which is in Catalonia, very close to Barcelona. They have recently adopted a plastic prevention plan thanks to Zero Waste Europe support and also the support of local members. And within this plastic prevention plan, which include lots of different measures and policies, a few of them are quite interesting for you, I guess. So the first one is obviously the promotion of tap water and reduction of single-use water bottle, with the installation of indoor water fountains connected to the network at any type of municipal facilities, which include hospitals, etc. And then they have adopted within this plan a specific sectorial plan for the health sector. So they want to implement plastic prevention policies in meals delivery in the health sector with two key actions. The first one is a reuse packaging system. So for the distribution of food surpluses from the hospital de Viladecans. So basically from the hospital, there's sometimes some food surplus, and they are partnering with an association to redistribute this extra food that has not been consumed. And to do this, they use only reusable packaging. So all the food, the extra food, is packed in reusable packaging before to be distributed. The second action they implemented is the elimination of single-use plastic packaging and other single-use plastic products in the distribution of meals by social services for people in care home, such as elderly home, etc. So some bans include plastic bottles. So plastic bottles for water or other beverages are banned. Single-dose containers as well, and other type of single-use items. They're really trying to reduce their dependency on single-use, specifically in the sector of care homes. Very final example, at the level of the city, they are now also trying to promote the use of reusable items, especially in the HoReCa sector and commercial establishments. So they are launching a campaign to reward citizens who make responsible consumption choices using or going to zero single-use packaging local shops. And as many good points they accumulate, that if they accumulate many good points for their actions, they can receive then some type of vouchers or gifts. Some actions that are promoted are obviously like consuming in a bulk store, but also carrying a reusable bag to go shopping, or using your reusable containers to buy a drink or for takeaway food. So this not only encourages citizens to adopt the right behaviors, but also encourages a local store to adapt their practices to that in order to encourage this change. So yes, I will stop here. I'm happy to take questions if there is any. If not per message or email, you can always contact me. I guess you will have my contacts per email after the conference. But thank you so much for listening.
Manon, thank you. That was absolutely fantastic, and your passion and enthusiasm speaks volumes. So well done. The work is really amazing. I think I can speak for all of us by saying we'll probably never look at a microwave meal in quite the same way again after your presentation. But there's a serious point from what you're making to us as well. In healthcare, as you probably know, we're one of the biggest users of single-use packaging, and in health and care, those single-use items come in that packaging. So I think there's a long, hard look at ourselves we need to take. I love your idea of waste management to resource preservation, and I think that preservation of natural resources is a really important thing that I'm sure we'd like to talk more about in health and care. So I have no questions for you. I'm still excited and enthused about what you've said, and just want to thank you so much for joining us today, Manon, and sharing that great work with us and those inspiring examples from around Europe. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I will have to go, but yeah, thanks again for the invitation.
Of course,
If you have any questions after that, you can always write me an email.
We will. Thank you so much.
Have a
Thanks,
nice
Manon. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.